Welcome in, everyone. Jamie is back. Thanks so much to Mitch and Nikki for jumping on the show. We're going to see Scoop tomorrow by himself as well. So the plan this year is to have a few of the guys come on and do some individual videos. We're trying to make this channel the one-stop shop that you need to come to. If you know you want information on someone, if you want to get a different opinion, not just mine, then you're going to have that this year with Nikki and Mitch both having their own video, which is going to be cool. And you will hear from Scoop as well this year. He's super excited about that. And in this video, you're going to be going through and comparing a bunch of the guns. So I'm super excited about this. We have a new feature on footystatistics.com, and it's going to allow us to compare players across seasons, across different positions, and across different styles of minutes as well, which is really cool. And we can jump in and play around with all that. And we've got Payne Haas and Isaiah Yeo. We're going to have Nathan Cleary and Nicho Hynes. We're going to have Hopgood and Barnett. We're going to have Lucas Preston and Beau Fermor. We're going to have Matt Burton, Jamal Fogarty, and Lockie Galvin, which is going to be a fun one. And then Turbo, Ponga, Walsh, and Edwards. Then we have a big one. Horsburgh, Fisher Harris, Hosking, Wilton, and Stefano Utokamanu. And that will finish us off for this video. So I'm super excited for that. I hope you guys are getting keen and locked in with your Vegas sides. And over the next couple of days, you'll get my guns video. You'll get a little mid-range video, and then my thoughts on the cashies heading into next week. And obviously, we will have a clearer picture on some of those cashies for next week. So you'll get an updated iteration on that one as well. And if you do want to see my Vegas players, we will see that on Saturday, definitely by Sunday morning, maybe Saturday afternoon. We'll see how we go on that front. I might do the fantasy reveal in the Saturday, and then the Supercoach reveal on the Sunday early morning. Super excited for that. But guys, if you haven't subscribed, do that. If you haven't followed, do that as well. And also, guys, New Zealand residents, super exciting news for you. Down in the description, Full-Time Sports Bar and Eatery. They are going through and putting together a beautiful overall league for you guys with a big prize at the end for the person who does come first. So jump in there, it's free. You got to get on their Instagram, follow them, write fantasy, and they'll give you the code, which will be good fun as well. So go check out the description. All of it is in there as well as the private group stuff. So there's still today, I think, is going to be the last day. Friday, I think, is going to be the other two. You've got 24 hours basically to get in and get yourself in a head-to-head comp. If you want to join in between round 1A and round 1B, I can still get you in all the overall stuff, and we have different knockouts and whatever else. But obviously you want, jump in and get everyone's advice there. It's going to be super helpful. So jump in and check that out. All right, now that the formalities are out of the way, let's get into Payne Haas and Isaiah Yeo. And you can see it on the screen there, a big minutes difference, that's for sure. But we're looking at lock and prop, two different, for these guys here. And we're just looking at the last two seasons. If you go back to 2022 as well, it does drop down a little bit for both players. They both drop about 2 points. So let's just go to the last 2 years. Payne Haas is at 59 minutes. Do we actually expect that to continue? I think it's fairly reasonable that you can expect 55 to 60. And then Isaiah Yeo, 77 minutes on average for him, so 76.8 is a really good spot. And I don't see that changing, at least this year. So those two guys, if you want to pick either of them, it's an awesome pick. They both have the same try scoring rate. Haas had no try assists in the last 2 years. That's wild. Isaiah Yeo actually has more line breaks as well at 0.2 and line break assists. Has more tackles, but the run meters, the tackle breaks, and the offloads is where things change for Payne Haas, and he becomes the winner on that front. So that's really cool, and just an easy way to quickly compare the guys. And with Payne Haas and Isaiah Yeo, it's very, very simple. Both of those have tremendous value in your sides. And the value in your sides isn't with them going up in value. It's the fact that they have value in their scoring and their consistency. You do have a look over the last 2 years. Isaiah Yeo has played 42 games compared to Payne Haas playing 34. So be aware of that as well. That consistency in games played is very, very important, with Payne Haas having a couple of injuries across the last 2 years. Let me know in the comments. Are you someone that's not taking either of them? I think that's completely fair, considering we do have a couple of guys, which I may as well go to in this next section. It's going to be Hopgood and Mitch Barnett. Are you going for one of those guys instead? And you look at this straight up, guys, there's 31 games for Hopgood versus 21 for Barnett across the last 2 years. And that is in a position of either lock or prop. So we're not looking at second row for Barnett because he shouldn't be playing that this year. They have Halasima off the bench as well that can play some edge, and then guys like Laban and whatever else that can come in at a later date. Jackson Ford, these types of guys can come in. So let's just sit it at prop and lock minutes for Barnett. And if you look at this straight up, it's a landslide for Hopgood. And that's the way I've had it all preseason. I think that Hopgood is the guy, has the consistency, has the run of games. It can obviously go the other way, because if you just drop it back to 2024, then Barnett is the guy. But that does include Hopgood getting injured in that game, and he would have been a 57 or so. And in those games, Barnett played the 63 minutes, and his PPM really improved, whereas he played 62 minutes and he was down at 54. So it is really, really a marketable difference there. A couple of points extra, a couple of minutes. So he did improve that a little bit, I should say. It's just a big difference compared to Hopgood. But you can't forget 2023, and it's 64 minutes for Hopgood. It's not anything crazy. It does drop down to 59.6, obviously, if you just look at last year, but that includes the injury game where he would have been up at a 64 average. The worry with Hopgood is the fact that they do have a new coach. But if you're looking at the stats straight up, he's a landslide victor in that standpoint. He makes 5 more tackles per game. He does miss less tackles as well, which is good, but 30 less on the run meter side. He does have more offloads as well. So there's definitely a few things that can be fairly easily replicated, especially with him making all those tackles, being more of a lock, playing a slight increase in minutes there. That's where his benefit's going to be. It's that offload gain that he does have, which is 4 points for us. The meters gain could definitely improve, but again, for a lock, it's going to be a bit less than a middle forward prop. Which, if you took the lock away and just check out Barnett's efforts at prop, you will see it all just stays the same. He hasn't played lock at all in that time. Yes, it's all prop. Scratch that on the quick compare. But yeah, just playing around with it as well. I'm still fairly new to this quick compare tab, but it's a fun one. That's for sure. So they're the two guys that you could select alternatively, and if personally I'd be going for Hopgood out of those guys. All right, now you can have a look at Cleary and Hynes just to show the comparison over the last 3 years, 22, 23, and 24. And it's a win to Nicho Hynes, which is pretty funny how that one plays out, but it shows that he has been absolutely dominant in that time. He's played 79 minutes a game, which has meant there's been less injuries during game anyway. 75.6 for Cleary. And really, if he plays that extra, 2.5 minutes there, so 3.5 minutes, he would get pretty well to that 69.8 average that Nicho Hynes has compared to 67.6. And just to have a little compare, I think it's really cool. They've had 1 try assist a game, each of them. Hynes has played 13 more matches in that time, which is really, really important because 43 matches is 2 seasons worth. So he's played 2 out of 3 seasons, whereas Hynes doesn't miss too many games, which is awesome. Same line breaks at 0.3. Line break assists a little bit better for Hynes. Tackles also a little bit better for Hynes, and missed tackles. So he's base on that front. The meters gained is super important. So 127 meters compared to 113, and he has 1 less missed tackle and makes 3.5 more tackles than Cleary. Where things work out for Cleary is in other areas like kick meters. That helps him out a little bit. So he picks up an extra couple of points in kick meters compared to Hynes. But if you're looking at that overall, it's pretty good. He kicks a couple, it gets 0.6 extra points in goals. But it just shows that Nicho Hynes is a really, really terrific player. And yes, he had some moments last year that weren't great. He's also cheaper this year, so there's still plenty of great things to look at with someone like Nicho Hynes compared to Cleary. But I understand that majority of people will take Nath, given that kick meter tally might actually increase a little bit more, which is pretty crazy. Now, a quick look at the Who's Hot list while we're here. Jack Cole, Thomas Duffy, Owen Paddy, Zach Hosking, Tamale, Purdue, Lucas, Horsburgh, Metcalf, Halasima, Ponga, Toa, Brimson, Batea, 3%, and then Jacob Bresson at 2.8. Good on you, son. What are the ownership levels? Cleary's at 57, Ayongi at 50, Pete, Mamazeles, Terrell May, Sanders Smith all over 40%. It's only 5, which is cool. Shows us still a fair few differences. Wow, it's going to be tough not to take Ponga, 32%. If he goes nuts, or if I don't end up taking him. Whew, I'm a cry, especially when we're about to go through his stats, and they are electric. Let's go to it right now while we're here, actually, to be fair. All right, here it is. Tommy Turbo, Kalen Ponga, Walsh, and Edwards. It's an absolute landslide right now to Kalen Ponga in the past 2 seasons at fullback. He's a 57.9, Turbo's 51, Walsh is 49, and Edwards is 50.8. You look at that straight up and you go, wow, how do you avoid that? And the big reason is the goals. That's where the extra 6 points comes from. You get a little bit from Walsh, a little bit from Edwards there. His try assists are way down. It's 0.9 for everyone else. His line breaks are down as well compared to the other guys. Line break assists for Walsh are nice, but it's not the biggest points, obviously. Tackle breaks, Dylan Edwards wins, and the other 3 are really similar. Missed tackles, Ponga's up there. Meters gained, Edwards wins that one. Ponga's right in the middle, basically at 171, and that's where Walsh, it hurts him at 154. Tackle breaks, Ponga wins along with Edwards at 6.2 and 3. Offloads, we do see Tommy, he's a winner of that one for sure. And then kick meters as well, you see Walsh and Ponga both get over 100. So Ponga scores in so many different ways. They have a really nice start to the season, and I very much understand why. He is, first on the list for picked fullbacks in the gun category. And that's what we're focused on here, guys. A 600 plus in this setup. Let's go back to the legends. Lucas, Preston, Bofo Moore. So for a quick comparison of those 2 guys, you do see Lucas at 53.6, Preston at 53.3, and Bofo Moore at 48.4. And that's just second row is the only thing that I have mucked around with. Lucas plays 4 extra minutes in those games. He's played 17 compared to Preston 32, and then Bofo Moore 52. So Preston looks like he's in a pretty decent sweet spot. With those minutes over the last 2 years, his PPM increased, whilst his, in his second year, which is great, but his minutes decrease. And if we can get that 75 on an average from Preston, I think that we see if he keeps the PPM from last year, which the trial will suggest that he looked really good, and he should, then I think we're in a good spot for Preston to improve. I think Dylan Lucas, really, really solid. Every time we've seen him in this edge spot, even at centre, he's hitting 50 plus. And for now, it's a 53.6 across the 2 seasons, which gives him a little bit of value, and I expect him to improve as well, like we saw with Preston. Looking at tries, it's all very similar. Try assist, same deal. Preston, none over his whole career. That's rough. 0.5 a line break from him, wins out just. But tackles, it's Lucas and Preston at 38.6 and 3, and then both of them are at 32. So that's a section of game where he can improve. And where Preston can improve as well is a 91 run meter. So I think if he can get to 110, like Lucas and like Bofo Moore, there's room for him to grow, which is really, really cool. For those tackle numbers to have some decent run meters, and obviously he absolutely burnt the fullback the other day. Those tackle break numbers at 2 and that offload number at 0.3, it's very, very clear. You make more run meters, there's more chance for tackle breaks, and there's more chance for offloads. And he's just under those boys in tackle breaks and in offloads. Preston's going to be a really fun pick this year, I think. And hopefully, if you do buy him, you can hold him for the entirety of the year. And what about both of them? Almost an error a game. That is rough. So 110 for the other 2 guys. Meters, I think, is pretty solid. I reckon Lucas can get a little bit higher than that. Bofo Moore is a great run of the footy as well, and he really turned that on in the back end of last year. He's got the runs on the board, Bo, but it's a 48 average compared to the other 2. So I would select Lucas or Preston before Bo. Slightly more expensive, those 2 are. And Bo obviously has the buy round 1. But if you do pop it to last year only, Preston wins out again, just ahead of Lucas there in 71 minutes. Lovely PPM. And he had the 49.8 there for Bofo Moore in his returning season. So those numbers are good for those guys. And yeah, I think it's going to be really fun. But guys, I have gone through all of the Vegas players. So these videos are going to be a little bit smaller, a little less in-depth, just because we haven't got the straight-up team list for the other 6 matches. So I thought it'd be a cool one to compare, and I'll do the same in the mid-range and stuff like that, and then we'll get into a little bit more deep diving on these guys next week, because you don't actually 100% have to make your decisions on these guys this week, but it's obviously nice to have a clear idea on the team that you are going for. Okay, Matt Burton, Jamal Fogarty, and Lockie Galvin. It's a really fun combination as well that you can go through. And just looking at last year, we see obviously Burton won out just over Fogarty and just over Lockie Galvin. So that shows that Burton and Fogs came into a slightly better role or improved, which is what you saw with Burton, and then Fogarty with the large amount of the kicking. In 2023 and 24, you do actually see Galvin outdoing those guys, which is a little bit of a worry if you are looking at Fogs or Burton. We know that they have that just under 50 streak in them. And if you go to 2022 as well, it's just under 50 for Burton at 49.9, 49.4 for Fogarty as well. So for those people that are looking at taking Lockie Galvin, no problem in that at all, I don't think, personally. Just for the fact that they should be a little bit better. He loves an offload, as we saw here, 1.7 offloads a game compared to the other guys, which if they did that, they'd be a mid-50s guy at the drop of a hat. You're looking at goals is the only thing that Galvin does lack. If he got goal kicking, I reckon he could be a 60 guy, but it's not going to happen. His try assists were the best. His tackle numbers are second best, with Burton at 16.6, Fogarty at 21.6. Not super ideal. Burton has the biggest missed tackles to tackles issue. So that's where I think Supercoach, for me, I'm looking at him more because he has a decent amount of attack at 0.3 tries per game. He's got the goals, which you get 4 in there, and then you get his 0.6 try assists. He gets the line break assists, which you won in both of them. So over the last 2 years, which is good. So that's where I see Burton, especially because the missed tackles are worth more in fantasy than they are to Supercoach. Fogarty's really good in a fantasy perspective because he doesn't miss a lot of tackles. He makes plenty at 21.6, and then Galvin only misses 1.5 a game. Makes way more meters, surprisingly enough. Galvin at 129. You'd expect Burton to be that way, but he does get a bit passive at times. Has great tackle breaks, has great offloads. Kick meters are well down as well, 167. So that's where Burton wins a 356, along with 447 for Fogarty. He does have 0.8 penalties and 1 error, does Burton. So that's not ideal either, and I think that can definitely improve. That's a really tough 2 years there. Which year did he cop that? That is gross. Yeah, 2024. They're both the same, are they? Oh, wow. Worse penalties in 2023. What a shocker from the great Matt Burton. Really need him to step up this year, especially for my Supercoach team. But let's finish it off, guys. Horsburgh, Fisher-Harris, Hosking, Wilton, and Stefano. So I've just popped in for positions. We've got prop and second row. None of these guys are, for now, I haven't got Horsburgh in there in the lock minutes. But let's just go through the game. So Horsburgh's played 5 games at 8, so prop, and 61 minutes in that time for a 53.4 average. Obviously, if you do add lock in there, puts him up to 65.8 minutes for 57.6. And that's where the benefit of him is if he happens to get anywhere near that 60-minute mark, playing a little bit of 13 along with the prop, then he has at least that 10 points of value and potentially more, especially if we happen to lose a Morgan Smithies or something like that. But let's just take that out for now and just look at his prop stats, which is exactly what he's playing this week. So Horsburgh's a 53. The next highest is 48.7 for Hosking. If we're looking at him at second row, including games he's missed time, it's 65 minutes for Hosking, 48.7. So it's great when you just factor in all the other games, but putting it in at 65, if he happens to play this on the weekend, we're expecting 48.7. I think that's fair, somewhere near the 50 mark. And is that worth it when you know that like Matty Nicholson and Sasangi could play some minutes there? Does he have the chance of going 70 plus? Yes. Does he have the chance of scoring 90 again? Yes. So he's the guy with upside if you're looking into this 1A, these Vegas games. If you see 1A, 1B, that's what we're talking about. Vegas games and then next week. So Hosking, I think, has the upside, which means he's a pretty good pick overall. There's some worries about him. Obviously, he's coming off a calf niggle, which no one's really talking about. Like, he's made it and he's fit enough for this, but does that mean he's going the full 80? He can definitely injure that again. He's had lots of injuries, and he's played 19 games starting as a second rower, which is just pretty wild, to be fair. Fisher-Harris, you got 39 games for him, averaging 44.1 in 47.5 minutes. So that's not super ideal, but it shows that that's where he's priced at right now. And if he gets anything over 50 minutes, it should improve. Teague Wilton, you're buying him at a similar price, obviously, to Fish. 46.7 is his average in basically full-minute games. So Fish at least has some room to move, so I'd pick him over Wilton in that scenario. Stefano, we've seen him play for 48.4 minutes, for 44. I do expect his PPM to probably improve to 1 with the Storm, and I expect 50 minutes. So 50 for 50 seems pretty fair for him on a week-to-week basis, with some games getting a try, like you saw in that trial game, and other games not so much. So that's Stefano on that one. We will adjust the minutes a little bit as well, which is something you can do to finish things off. and Horsburgh. So yeah, minutes wise, let's go add the lock in there as well. Just to, actually, no point. Yeah, we'll do it. We'll just change the minutes. So for the minutes here, you can actually move things around. So this one just moves it from minimum. So we look at who are these guys going to be. We'll say 45, 46. 46 will work. And then dropping down the big minute games just so we can have a look at a couple of these other players. So 81, let's get lower on that one. 76. So just excludes all the 80-minute exactly games on that one. And that pushes Hosking down to 42.4 and only 9 games, which is tough. Wilton pushes him down, but we're not expecting those guys to have those worrisome minutes. What we're looking at is Stefano at 47.3 in 52.1 minutes, which is, going to give him a bit of value in 27 games. 26 games for Fish between those minutes of 46 to 76. And he has a 50.2 average in 53.6. So I'm expecting something like that for him this year. To be honest, 6 points of value and just a really solid pick that you could hold for a good while. But it's not exactly keeper territory. We know that Horsburgh, if he manages to get up in his 60 minutes, he is in keeper territory. 55 we can expect if he gets right up there. If he gets 53, 54, 55 minutes, also really happy. I think he can average 50 and have pretty well 10 points of value at that standpoint, and in a team that you look like you're going to hold him pretty strong. So it's good for Horsburgh. There's good for Hosking. There's a bit of worrisome stuff for him. There's worrisome stuff for Hosking. I think Hosking has a little bit more injury risk than Fish and Horsburgh. Fish and Horsburgh maybe a little bit less upside, but probably a little bit more safety. You know what you're going to get through the middle. Minutes-wise, we're still waiting to see on those two, but you expect somewhere around that 50 minutes mark should be fine for those fit boys. And I think we leave it at that. Thanks so much for coming in for this one. We compared the guns. We'll get in and do some stuff with the mid-range as well. After this video, you're going to see Scoop and his team reveal and his thoughts on Vegas games and different positioning stuff and just his thoughts overall with ownerships and stuff like that. So that'll be exciting. And then you'll see my mid-range stuff and we'll get into team reveals and also these Vegas games. I can't wait, and we'll see you in the next one, guys.